traded Umberto for a brand new love, and I'm like, ka-chunk you. Your name is Chris Whittingham, you said it wasn't enough. I'm like, ka-chunk you. It's crazy, you dish for Hagee. Lomberg's kicking in high gear. You pick Trocheck, well I'm rolling with Barkey. The bandwagon don't need you here. You're missed on Matthew, and all they do for you, well, he's a goal-getter. Whittingham is so bitter. Ooh, I got some news for you, coward. Go tell your little New York friends. You're mad they traded Umberto for a brand new love, and I'm like, ka-chunk you. Your name is Chris Whittingham, you said it wasn't enough. I'm like, ka-chunk you times two. You slept with a stranger, the New York Rangers. And that's some cowards. That's cowards. And while you still fancy dress, the Ice Cats are the best. That's right, ka-chunk you.
Hitting the penis.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. You can't go out, man, forget my peace. You take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put them in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Somebody writes in to start our morning, a private company refusing your business because it offends their local market is not censorship and has nothing to do with freedom of speech.
You don't get the show.
Censorship is the word I meant to say, not censorship. Like Sean Connery.
Happens.
Well, we're in bad shape today. Nobody more so than Chris Cody. Did you sleep here? Did you sleep on the couch here?
There weren't a lot of options at 4 o'clock. I was like, my car's an option. I'm definitely not paying for a room at this hour. Yeah, I slept on the couch here. And I was told by Tony when he did the 24-hour thing that it was not a pleasant experience, and he was right.
The problem is that we have, like, auto lights here, so anytime that there's movement of any sort, all of the lights turn on in the entire building that we're in.
It took me like 20 minutes to get it back to dark. And when I was so happy, but I was so afraid to move. And then I just I swear I moved my elbow and boom, shining lights again.
It is a lot of sensors here. Welcome to the future. At every point in your future, Google's just going to decide how you live and turn on the lights when they want to.
Am I missing something? Why did you sleep here?
Oh, what a night I had.
He's not the only one. So the Stanley Cup made its way over to Miami, and I'm going to explain to people what 11 is because I don't think there are a lot of places like this outside of Vegas in the United States that go all night, half cabaret. Was Ekblad on the stripper pole?
Multiple people were. I can't confirm Ekblad was. I saw Lomberg up there. I saw Cousins up there. I saw Bennett try to get up there, but that wasn't. He was wearing jeans. Hard to climb a slippery pole with jeans on.
How many places
tried?
How many places in the United States are there that have places that don't close because they just made their way over to space afterward? South Florida, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, in terms of having this stuff that goes all night. It's live, it's space, it's 11. I don't think Revolution goes that late, but I don't think the United States has as liberal laws as Miami does on this stuff.
7-Eleven.
Stugotz was... I've had a conversation with Stugotz this morning. He doesn't even know what 11 is. He's like, what'd you do last night? I'm like, 11. He's like, why so late? I'm like, I don't. It's like, who's on first? I don't think you're understanding what happened last night.
Well, who was with you, and what's the story? Because you came in here and said, I'm going to hide behind my glasses all show. We're going to give 30 carries to Lucy. We're going to give 30 carries to Jessica, and we're going to get out of here because you said you want to hide your bloodshot eyes away from view. Who was with you? It was Izzy. I saw Mike Ryan. Was Lombard with you?
It was Izzy's birthday. Izzy's the only reason we got the hookup. We had a table. Mike was there. A couple people from the group chat was there. Inexplicably, Taylor, the Rangers fan, was there. I don't know how that happened. But yeah, Lombard came over. Basically, these guys were right in front of us. So if we just, as a group, Mikola, he would come over and we had our time with him. It was just like, I'm a little unsure of what videos we partied with these guys a little bit, and it was fun. And I just want to be back there right now. I'm regretting it right now because I feel like death. But Barky was just in his element, getting Barky chants going. Just what a time. Lombard, Kachuk, no Bob, the only missing person.
He didn't show up?
He was getting a haircut. He hadn't gotten a haircut in a while.
Stolars was there. Spencer Knight. It's great to see him having a good time. He's had his struggles with mental health, so it was good to see everybody. Just, man, they were letting loose. These hockey players can party, dude.
You sound awful.
I've talked enough. Please move on to someone else.
Yes.
Mississippi, Louisiana,
Minneapolis,
New Jersey.
They
these
have
all
places.
have 24-hour. Yeah.
Brooklyn.
Okay.
All places I would not want to be.
I associate that mostly with Vegas because I know that what 11 is trying to do, they are part of the group here that houses us and the Elser and everything else. They're trying to bring a slice of Vegas here. I think 8 of the top 10 nightclubs in the United States are in Vegas because you just go all night the way those guys went all night. And yes, hockey players can party. Notoriously, it's hockey players and basketball players are known for owning the nightclub scene.
It was funny, Izzy, who goes there often and has like been there for like when Lil Wayne's there and Drake, and he's just like, these Panther fans who a lot of people in here, even though they're wearing Panther stuff, couldn't even tell you who's who. It was just funny seeing the Panthers in the spot that like Drake is and Lil Wayne. It was just a wild night seeing the Panthers in that element.
Drake doesn't have to start a chant for himself the way Barky did. Barky had to start the chant for himself, correct? It wasn't anyone else starting the Barkov chant. It was him.
I saw that video too. It's a little misleading.
Is it? How's it misleading?
Because there were people chanting his name. Like in this one clip that I saw, yes, he is saying he's for some reason chanting Barky.
But who started the chant?
The crowd.
I don't know. I mean,
The what?
The crowd. Please stop making me talk.
we should do nothing but ask you questions.
The NBA had its draft last night. I tend to have exactly zero interest in drafts of all kinds. Tony, do you want to update me on what it is that I have to know from last night's draft?
The Heat got a 7-footer that they weren't really scheduled to get. Like 10 guys from France went, and then like 14 other guys that we've never heard of got drafted.
This is the first time in my lifetime that the WNBA draft has been more interesting than the NBA draft, that it is more attention, more worthy of the attention, more interest, more analysis that that I saw that was good about the WNBA draft, because a whole lot of people are guessing about what you saw last night. They're just guessing.
Well, that's because we've never seen most of these players. I mean, France won the draft last night. They did. They have won the last 2 drafts. I thought Spain was the powerhouse in Europe. It's not anymore. It's France. I was shocked to see that. I mean, France owns it, and I'm concerned about the NBA and the state of basketball here in the United States. What happened to the locked #1 overall picks? What happened? Ralph Sampson, Patrick Ewing, Len Bias.
Well, what happened?
There was a time where Michael Jordan wasn't good enough to go #1 overall.
What
he went
happened
third.
To players playing long enough in college that it's not just Zach Edey that you know when he is drafted, that you have an attachment to players who have put in some longevity in college?
We're not that far from Zion being the absolute #1 lock pick. We're like 4 or 5 years away from that.
And you're going to have Cooper Flagg, a white American, next year likely.
He's
go
really
#1.
good, by the way.
Yes,
Really?
Yes,
He's amazing.
everyone is saying that he is exceptional.
I like the idea of France winning the draft. Like they got the #1 overall guy 2 years in a row. They win. It's like there's nothing. The teams don't win. France wins.
Stugotz said 10 French players. I don't believe that number is accurate.
I thought it was 3.
Yeah, there you go.
It felt like 10. I gotta be honest.
But it was like the
Multiply by
first,
3 of the top 6.
It was like the,
That's
the
10.
first 6
I mean.
guys.
Do you have a top 5 list of any kind today off the draft, as you are wont to do very often when there are big sporting events?
I have top 5 people in sports who connote France.
You do? Okay.
do, yes.
All right. That's great. We'll get to that in a second. Jeff Pearlman, who is an author of many great and well-reported books, says the following, Stugotz, and I'm curious whether the group here has, and we've got journalists here in the group, but the day of sports journalism is being gobbled up, if it hasn't already been gobbled up and spit out, and your choices are basically to watch it and complain or watch it and give up, because you're not going to win trying to make arguments for journalism these days in sports coverage. But Jeff Pearlman, he was the reason that Winning Time got made on Max, because he wrote the book about the Lakers. And again, he's an exceptional reporter. This is what he has to say about some of the coverage last night. Something has snapped in sports coverage. Absolutely snapped. Yesterday, I saw a video of Stephen A. Smith celebrating a Knicks trade, like the unbridled giddiness of a child. And today he covered the draft as an analyst. I don't understand when or / how ESPN became accepting of this. I remember the moment. It was when Wilbon threw the first pitch wearing a Cubs jersey tucked into his jeans. That's when it happened at ESPN.
That's the day journalism died.
That is
You're
the day
right.
that
Yes.
sports journalism and fandom mixed in a way that awkwardly threw a pitch while having a jersey tucked into jeans.
Genuinely asking, did he know that there was a show on ESPN and a show on ABC? Because the ESPN show was giving great analysis of every single pick, and it was actually really well done.
I was watching it on mute, so I didn't really get anything of like analyzation, but Jeff Pearlman, dork. Like, you try and go talk on TV and radio for 17 hours a day, and then go do more after you're done with that.
Tony, you need
Our
to
jobs
understand.
are hard.
Sit in your room in your closet, writing a book. Give me a break.
I'm not even saying you're wrong, but just understand who Jeff Pearlman is.
No, I got that.
He cares about this stuff as much, if not more, than Dan does. Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. I wouldn't say, look, Stugotz, I've given up. I don't care anymore. I'm noticing it.
You're not happy about it.
No, I don't care. I really don't, because it's not like we're doing very much journalism here. It's not something that I actually care about anymore. You're just shouting at clouds to care about it. But if you're going to dismiss the writer, Jeff Pearlman, Tony, I think you have to use the word analysis instead of analyzation. I think that I'm not totally sure that analyzation is a word.
Look that up.
I'm not positive.
I know you're not positive, so look it up before you say that.
It might be. It might be a word. It didn't sound right to me, though.
Well, look it up.
The act or an instance of analyzing something.
Come on, Dan.
Joke's on you, Dan.
You've done this to me like 3 or 4 times where I've given you the parade, and then you're like, no, that's not the right word. I'm a writer. And then we Google it, and it's exactly the right word.
I think point to Tony, honestly.
Yeah, another
Yeah.
death of journalism
Hey,
moment
dork.
for me. I can't complain very much about any of this stuff when analyzation doesn't sound like a word to me. It sounds like it's wrong. It sounded wrong
Sounds
coming
like
out
it's
of your
wrong
mouth.
and it's right.
Never
It
thought
sounds
about
right.
it. I mean,
I understand. I saw this and I was surprised by it. The Knicks are now the second betting favorite to win the title. Second.
Huh.
And I think people are underestimating how hard it is to recreate some of this stuff. Atlanta got this far recently, and I'm reading yesterday that Trae Young's not worth anything, that people want DeJounte Murray more than they want Trae Young, and it's all fallen apart in Atlanta. But I just watched Dallas beat 350-win teams that are better than the Knicks. They beat 350-win teams that I believe are still better than the New York Knicks.
It's June.
yeah.
But it's still a betting favorite. You can right now. It's June, but it's money. It's money, and you can bet money on whether or not you believe that the Knicks should be the second best betting favorite to win the NBA title.
So is Colorado football, all right? We can't really trust this.
Colorado football is not the second favorite to win
They're
the
like
title.
top 5.
There's no
I
way.
don't
Get
think.
outta here.
No
Prime
way.
time,
No,
baby.
they're
I'm
like
looking
the
it
most
up.
bet
Hold
on
on.
team. They're like top 10.
Their wins total that I looked yesterday
Keep
was like
pushing it
5.5.
Top 10.
Lucy,
People
went-
are betting on Colorado like crazy. They
Wait.
always do.
But Lucy, you went from number 2 to top
No, I
5
don't
to
really
top
remember.
10.
I don't
believe her.
I don't
I stand
remember
by
what you're
Lucy.
talking about. I don't think I said that.
Lucy, your analysis can't be that Colorado is the second favorite to win the title when the betting total on them over under is 5.5 wins.
Dan, journalism is dead. My analysis
It really
can be
is.
whatever I want it to be.
Okay, fair enough.
She got your ass.
I really do think that that's where we are with things. Yes. Dan, journalism is dead. She got your ass. Yeah.
They're tied for 31st in odds for the national
That's
championship.
still crazy high.
That is too high.
Top 30.
She's
That's
right.
basically top 10.
Her
Just
point
missing
was
the
right,
playoff.
Dan.
They're
That's
just
right
missing the
there.
playoff.
That's right there.
Juju, put it on the poll, please. Is being ranked number 31 basically top 10?
In the
Yes.
ballpark. I mean,
Everyone vote yes. Journalism is
I
dead.
don't
We're rigging the polls.
feel like it's the ballpark. I don't feel like we're
Yeah.
playing the same sport. I think one of those is cricket and the other is baseball.
Speaking of ballpark, fuck the ballpark, okay? Because this little purple piece of shit Grimace, he ruined my whole weekend. I went to the Cubs-Mets game last night. Dan, I know you've been talking about Grimace. The Mets went on like a 7-0 win streak after Grimace threw the first pitch, but that has now extended 2 more weeks, and now the Mets are 11-2, I think, since Grimace threw the first pitch. So I went to the Mets-Cubs game last Friday thinking, oh, first time back at Wrigley Field. This is going to be so much fun. I can't wait. The Mets are kind of crappy. The Cubs haven't been playing well lately either, but Shota's on the mound. It's going to be a great game. I think the Cubs are going to win this one. First inning, Mets 3 runs. Second inning, Mets, another 3 runs. The Mets blew out the Cubs. It was the most boring game of baseball I've seen in years, which is saying a lot. And it's all because of friggin' Grimace, and it's so stupid.
Mr. Met, hot seat.
Stugotz came in here today saying,
Mrs. Matt, hottest seat.
told you about the Mets, he says, because he had in his weekend observation, look out for the Mets. And so now he is taking credit for their hot streak, even though they are still one of the worst teams in baseball.
13-2 since Grimace. They're 39-39. They're at 500. They're a game out of the wild card. The Metropolitans, Dano. I mean, here they come.
So you're in on the Mets now? You've changed
for
your
now,
mind?
yeah,
You've
yeah.
changed your mind on all things Mets because we were describing them not 3 weeks ago as, and I think if they didn't have the worst record in baseball, they had the second or third worst record in baseball when we were talking about them.
Yeah.
Now you're saying that they fixed it? Everything is okay now? Because they keep clubbing the Yankees? Aaron Judge is playing well for the Yankees, but nobody else is?
Yeah, I'm in for now.
All right, you got your top 5 list. That doesn't mean anything. I'm in for now doesn't mean anything.
We'll see
It's
how the
means
rest
for
of the
now,
season
Dan.
goes. I mean, I'm in
Doesn't
for
mean
now.
anything.
It's baseball. It's a long season. I mean, we'll see what happens, you know?
Haven't even hit July yet.
I know that it's a long season, but you've already given up on them once.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's a long season or
But
not.
now I'm back, right? I gave up, and now I'm back in. I apologize for giving up the first time. I might give up again, but for right now, Dan, this moment, I am in. I am glued to the Mets game in large part because there's nothing else to watch. I mean, how about that?
Top 5 players that you associate with France based on only their name. Any OLI?
Yeah, 1. Todd France.
Number 5,
Paris Campbell.
Ty France, by the way. Number 4,
Really? Tony Khan.
I think that's spelled differently. Number 3,
Red Grange and Clay Matthews. Tied for 3rd.
so Red Clay.
Yeah.
That's all you're. Okay. Number 2,
Napoleon Kaufman.
number 1.
Michelle Wee.
What about Channing Frye?
Oh, man.
That would have been a good one there. Unfortunately, it's his list.
Red Grange and Clay Matthews. I mean, come on.
Galloping Ghost.
feels
Really
like
proud of that one.
Feels like a bit of a stretch there. I think.
I'm actually not sure if I get it. Can you mansplain it to me?
You know, like Red Clay?
The Red Clay of Roland
Oh,
Garros.
I see.
Yeah.
Red, but it's 2 names.
I left out Mariano
Put in
Riviera.
Both
I mean,
names to get Red Clay.
Mariano Riviera.
That is correct.
That was a better one.
Thank you.
I did enjoy the recreation yesterday of somebody wrote to Kachuk when he was traded to the Panthers, "Good riddance" on Twitter, "enjoy the beach." And so a lot of people were showing the photograph of Kachuk in the ocean holding the trophy over his head. Yes, he seemed to be enjoying the beach more than most people. First of all, as a threat or as a dismissal, good riddance is good, but enjoy the beach. Like, it's not.
Have fun being rich in one of the best places ever.
You're telling him to enjoy something that everyone enjoys.
That's correct. I don't enjoy the beach doesn't sound very much like good riddance or something that you're wishing a plague on somebody.
Was this Whittingham, by the way, that sent this letter?
Where is Whittingham? I've asked for him as a guest because he's got to be feeling great remorse because he bailed at a really imperfect time. I don't know if the rest of you have any kind of experience like this, with this, where you gave up on a team at the wrong time, where he went over to the Rangers upon leaving our show because he was so mad about a trade that he dismissed that ended up being what we can call the best trade in the history of South Florida, given the result. And he didn't like it. And not only was it the best trade in the history of South Florida, it was also a seismic management change that I have never seen a team in South Florida do so quickly after what would otherwise be regarded as a successful playoff season. I know we've changed sort of how we're doing this stuff now, where Fred Hoiberg gets fired after a year.
The mayor.
Monty Williams gets fired after a year. Teams are going to have less patience about a lack of success than they used to have. But the Panthers' overhaul as an architectural marvel is really interesting, given rarely do you get that quick a trigger pull on we're blowing up the best offense in the regular season that the sport has ever seen, and 2 years later, you're holding up the trophy rewarded for that change.
With 21 active players, 18 of them were acquired via transaction, whether that's free agency or a trade. It's an unbelievable overhaul over the last several seasons under Bill Zito.
But what Dan is saying, it's crazy, right? To have a team that won the President's Cup, that was the best team in the regular season, and then to break it all up because they didn't do anything in the postseason, and for that to work. Like, when do you see that in sports, where a team has that kind of season, the season they had 3 years ago? You break it up. You have the balls to break it up, the guts to do it, and then it works out and you win a championship a couple of years later. That is crazy.
I was hearing Goldie say there's not a miss on there. Of all the people he brought in, like, there's not one. It's like, that one didn't work out. He's just hit on all of them.
I simply can't tell you how rare it is, though, when I've covered sports long enough to see that people who are in leadership so very often end up leaking confidence and then just go routes that seem scared and safe in the name of ass covering because you don't want to be the one blamed for something. And so the Panthers go from, again, the best regular season offense we have ever seen to getting choked out, python strangled by Tampa Bay in a way that made it obvious to all, oh, wait, Tampa Bay is clearly the dynasty, the ruler of the state. They have your number. Made it clear, but it would have been so much easier to just keep the team the way that it was because your fan base had fallen in love with a couple of the players. But the answer was so stark that Tampa had passed them. For them in 2 years to knock off specifically Tampa, knock them off in the first round. Couldn't you make the argument? Because look, the organizations that you're dealing with here in getting to this title, Tampa, Boston, are the Rangers not the most successful franchise in New York right now of any kind? Have the Rangers not been that now for a couple of years, any kind in New York the last, 3 or 4 years?
I would say Rangers. Yeah, the Rangers. Maybe the Yankees. Maybe.
Not the Yankees. It would not be the Yankees. The Yankees
They made the
were
postseason once, I think.
The Yankees
You're
were
saying the last
terrible
3
last
years.
year.
Right.
I'm saying that recently the best team, the best run franchise has been the Rangers. I guess some people might make an argument now for what the Knicks are doing.
And the
because,
Liberty.
They have fixed some things. Yeah, the Liberty is also a good choice.
Commissioner's Cup losers, though.
At home. At home.
It wasn't actually at home. They had to move the game because of the draft, which was a massive self-owned by the WNBA.
I did not realize that. I thought
played
that
in
was simply
Elmont.
a home game. Did the rest of you get enthused with the NBA draft last night? Did any of you get excited? I did see the reports beforehand of not just Bam signing an extension, but also the report by Shams that Jimmy Butler is going for free agency in 2025, that he will not be signing an extension with anybody.
Well, just as far as like the drafted players are concerned, I still enjoy, even though I didn't really know a lot of the names and faces, I still like watching players get drafted. And I feel like I kind of felt bad because so much of like the commentary this year has been like, who are these people? These are a bunch of nobody losers, but it's still obviously like a great night for them. And some of these players probably will end up being all-stars at least and playing hopefully long NBA careers. So I did feel bad that it was overshadowed by like, man, this year really sucks. Because like these guys have worked so hard to get drafted by NBA teams. And like I thought ESPN did a good job on the main ESPN broadcast that I was watching of like, yeah, like this guy's game isn't perfect, but like he's going to work on it. And like this is a great choice because of this and X, Y, and Z. And so it kind of made me feel a little bit better just like getting to see them have their moment. But yeah, it would stink to be part of this draft class and have everyone just talking about how I don't know who this person is. I've never seen them before in my life.
This is how you know it's bad when you don't know people on screen, where the camera guy, they're talking about Dalton Connect from Tennessee, and they're showing a completely random guy who's not Dalton Connect. Who's looking and then the camera's like, wait a second, hold on, over here. They did it 3 times during the draft. It wasn't just him, it was 3 times.
I do wonder about the long-term corrosive effect, Stugotz, of you've heard me talk before about how the draft is an unjust, cartel-oriented thing that has, before the G League, protected the pro sports ability to have a free minor league in college sports, in football and in basketball. And I do wonder about the long-term corrosive effect of the guys who are being drafted you do not have any connection to. The WNBA draft, people were connected to the human beings and their stories being drafted. There was a disconnect last night between people who love this sport and not having access to who the young players are who represent the future pipeline, because college basketball isn't what it was before. It's a way station. It's a rest stop along the turnpike.
It just doesn't feel like there's been a huge men's college basketball star the way that there's been several women's college basketball stars over the last couple of years, and I don't know how you change that. But even that being said, was still really happy to see some of the players that I watched in the NCAA tournament this year get drafted last night.
A listener has written in to demote Lucy, I'm afraid, writing in Colorado. Lucy is not ready for 30 carries. Maybe a third down back, return a few kicks.
I actually agree with him. You know what? He's right. I know it was a man who wrote it. Women don't say mean things.
Little scat
But,
back.
Yeah, he's got a point.
In Lucy's defense, the college football season starts when EA Sports college football comes out,
Fair.
which has not happened yet.
Right.
So you can kind of say anything you want right now and just be like, June.
I say anything I want all the time.
You do that, and you're not the only one who does that. Stugotz does that as well. I am told that we have some sound, some voyeuristic video and sound of what the mighty Stugotz monster is during breaks. He will have to run off here at some point to do a little bit of God Bless Football. Evidently, were you talking to Billy here? Do you know what it is that we're playing here? Because they've caught you. Stugotz is always giving takes, whether the microphones are on or not, whether you're listening or not. He does drive-by takes. He mutters them under his breath so that at some point in the future he could say, I called that. I had that right. Remember that time I told you that and you weren't listening.
Just say it somewhere, Dan.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so what is this sound that they caught you doing? Are you talking to Billy about something?
We're doing God Bless Football, and during a break, as you know with me, the show never stops. And so I had no idea I was being recorded, but I'm afraid, Dan, that I am rubbing off on Billy Gill.
All right, let's see what this is here. You don't know? Do you know what you're talking about? What you guys
talk
are
about a lot of things, man.
Okay, it's just you giving your opinions to Billy, who's got to be at this point really tired of you just blowing cigarette breath in his face.
Argentina survived Messi's scare. What happened to Messi?
Probably got kicked or something.
Messi said he hoped his injury scare was nothing serious. See, this fucking guy. They pay him how much to come here and play for Inter Miami and MLS? And
getting hurt for Argentina.
Dicking around in some stupid Copa tournament that doesn't matter. Buddy, you won the World Cup. You won the international tournament. You're going to win. Why are we playing this other ridiculous
He's already also won that tournament.
So what is he doing? Like, enough already. Enough's enough.
Messying around.
Who agrees to have their employee come and just not show up to work to go work at another company and then have him get injured? I don't get it.
A desperate soccer team.
They still haven't actually won the real MLS championship. They won that made-up one that they throw in the middle of the season. It's like, no, it's one of 3 championships the MLS that you can win. Like, no, there's one championship. Like, enough. Enough of this already.
You know who agrees with you? Mark Cuban. He was the first one I ever heard say, hey, I don't want my guys playing in the Olympics because they play for me.
That's the thing. Soccer, World Cup. Soccer in the Olympics? No.
Right.
Copa America? No.
Oh, I'm tired of soccer. I've been tired of soccer forever, though. I mean, seriously, NFL, Super Bowl, that's it. Boom.
That's right.
Baseball, World Series, boom. Hockey, Stanley Cup, boom. Right?
Imagine if all of a sudden you get someone who's like, you know what, I'm going to play in the UFL championship games. Like, no, you're not.
No.
No, thank you.
No, you're going to play in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Yeah, if you make it.
If you make it.
If you're lucky enough to make it.
That's right.
I mean, enough of this shit.
Enough.
I mean, soccer, they have a million in-season this, they have Copa this, they have Cabana this, they have this, they have that. I just get to the World Cup and play it every year.
That's right. Or the MLS.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. MLS, World Cup.
Yeah.
No Copas, no Cabanas.
I don't even think the MLS matters. No one cares. I mean, Messi doesn't even care.
That's the thing. How am I supposed to care about the MLS and Inter Miami if he doesn't?
He's telling us that he cares more about the World Cup.
The Copa Cup.
Oh,
Copa
not
America
even the World Cup. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah. It's an outrage.
It is. I'm outraged.
I mean, enough. He doesn't respect the MLS. He doesn't respect Miami. He doesn't respect anything in America.
They just bend over backwards for this guy. They bring all his friends to play with him, and none of them feel like playing.
It's really Messi and friends. That's really
it's
what it is.
ridiculous.
Yeah, win something.
He's won a lot.
What?
Win something here.
There you go.
Name something he's won.
He won that made-up MLS tournament over the season. Yeah, the World Cup. That's fine. He got it. Look, check that box, okay? And you're in the point of your career where, respectfully, you can't play in the big leagues in Europe. So now you're here in America. Focus on this league. This is your job now.
That's what the MLS is.
We
get Europe's best players when they're past their prime.
That is what it is.
Name something he's won.
It's a building block, a staple of sports radio, Dan. Listen, you say it, you throw it out there, you hope the other guy has no idea if he's won anything.
I know, but all Messi has done recently is one. I'm familiar with what your move is. I don't need it explained to me.
Well, name him.
I mean, the scariest thing about this was like Billy is just becoming mini you, I guess. Yeah. Like that was
all Billy.
Concerning.
Yes.
Well, in a number of ways, I would say Copa Cup is redundant, first of all. Those are the same thing. One of them is in Spanish, one of them is in English.
Copacabana did crack me up.
Copacabana is not a thing. I mean, it's a song, but it's not. There's not a cabana. Yes, thank you, Stugotz. I appreciate you singing Copacabana poorly. Nobody wins a cabana in soccer. That's not something that happens. You mentioned the Olympics in there, too, and I saw a story here where Al Michaels, Stugotz, as good a announcer as there's ever been in sports, is now being recreated, his voice, for the Summer Olympics in a way that he's heard, the rest of us haven't. He called it astonishing, amazing, frightening. That they can replace now Al Michaels. They don't need Al Michaels in order to be able to recreate Al Michaels. I don't know if you guys have been reading some of what it is that Google's doing. Google owns YouTube. At this point, you're really used to feeling like your devices are listening to you and manipulating you because the algorithms are such that they've got a lot of information about you. And I think all of this is well beyond frightening. Like, if this is what has happened over the last 5 years of artificial learning, I can't imagine what the next 20 years are going to look like as hedge funds and corporate greedy monsters end up grabbing all of our information because it's such currency and then using it against us to manipulate us. Because I already feel like I'm being manipulated by my devices. And, there are a lot of reports that Google is lying about how it does things, what it is that you're searching for.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
That can't be true, Dan. A big company like that has access to all of our information is lying to us. It can't be.
I want to go back to Messi for just a quick second because he has his own Wikipedia page for list of career achievements because it's too long to put on his main wiki page. And I don't know if you want to scroll through it, Stugotz, and just glance at it before the next segment, but it's a long list.
I trust you.
But Dan, I'm with you. It is the Al Michaels thing. I wonder why he even agreed to it. I assume he had to give consent for them to make this for him. But if they're paying him, why don't they just pay him to actually do the voiceover? Why would they? I don't understand. I don't understand.
Like they can pay him to not do it though.
It's a dream job. They're just paying you to use your voice, and you don't have to do anything.
I'm in.
Well, dream job is fired NBA coaches, we know.
We should get a soundboard, Chris, for when Stugotz leaves to go do a little bit of God Bless Football later in the show to see if we could create the reason Stugotz is safe is because we haven't figured out a way to create artificial stupidity. We could do it. We could do it with intelligence, but I think Stugotz is going to be difficult to recreate in any form. He's going to confound the robots.
This Messi guy has won a lot of things.
Do you have AI Al Michaels for us? Can I hear will I be able to tell the difference?
Hi, Kelly. Welcome to your daily Olympic recap, your personal rundown of yesterday's most thrilling Olympic moments. Since you're a swimming fan, let's head right to the pool. Team USA secured a stunning victory in the men's 4x100-meter medley relay, smashing the world record. Over at the diving venue, Krista Palmer showcased resilience and skill, overcoming past knee surgeries to qualify for the women's springboard final. Meanwhile, a tough break for Canada's Pamela Ware as a failed final dive scored 0, ending her bid for the final. Check out these highlights from yesterday's action.
Okay, I understand. Like they can pay him. I'm not sure what the payment situation is, but they can pay him just to give like authorization to create highlights with his voice, I suppose. But wouldn't it be better if you actually had a human Al Michaels doing this with his actual voice, right?
Well,
like,
I think
with
it would
intonation
sound
and like delivery and
it would sound
emotion.
less stiff and starched than that sounded. It would sound he would use better words. Like it's still the primitive form of whatever it is that this is going to become 10 and 15 years from now when we replace everybody with the robots, because you can tell that there is no emotion in what's being said there. It sounds like it's being printed on a factory line by a machine, but it sounds like him.
Got to be honest, not impressed. I mean, AI, do better. Seriously. I mean, you're supposed to be the future. I mean, do something better than that. There's no emotion. A terrible job by AI.
I mean, they're going to have a hard time recreating artificial emotion. Like, intelligence seems like it would be easier to recreate than emotion.
There's probably a dozen at least people on the Olympic broadcast that would have happily taken this role. And so that's, I think, where the bummer is, because you can get the next Al Michaels if you give the opportunity to someone to become that.
Oh, but Jessica, why would we do that when we can reward an 80-year-old white man again? Like, why would we give it to anybody else that's diverse? We don't need to do that. Let's just give all the stuff to the 80-year-old white men. It's what we're going to do with the debate tonight. Like, let's just give all the stuff to 80-year-old white men. They need more stuff.
Does this just mean that Al Michaels is going to call every Olympics for the rest of time? Perpetuity. Like forever? Because now if we have his voice in AI, why would they do anything different?
Can we bring old voices back, like Howard Cosell? Can we do that? That'd be great.
Ooh, I don't
now
know if you
we're
want
talking.
That.
Man.
You feed all his old stuff to AI, you don't like what you're getting back. Trust me.
I think that's a great idea that Stugotz has. Like Harry Carey on the Olympics? Are you kidding me? I would love. Can we figure out? Can we have video go back? I don't know whether ChatGPT uses this or not, but I'd like to figure out how to create a fake Harry Carey talking about the Olympics.
Horrible.
We already have that.
You almost threw up.
I'm burping so much.
Alleged young person, Jessica. I'm going to shock, I think, America right now when I say this. Fell asleep during Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final.
I said that in confidence.
No!
Dan, I was really excited for it, but it started so late, and I woke up and I expected. Yeah, it started at 8:25. Okay,
yeah, they've always started at 8:20. They do the anthems. It takes 20 minutes.
Here's what happened.
Monday night,
I was flying back from a golf tournament at Notre Dame. This whitest sentence ever, but there was a thunderstorm over Miami, and the pilot said, "Guess what? We're gonna loop around Tampa for an hour until this thunderstorm blows out of here." And then I had to go wait for the shuttle to get my car, to pick up my dog, to bring her back. And then we found a lost dog on the way home. That was an hour-long side quest. Dog ended up going back to his house, thank God. It was just a long night. So then by the time the game started... White.
Just all of it.
I can make it whiter. It was the goal at golf tournament.
Thank you. Thank you. I needed that. By the time I got home, I was pooped. And I had a whole pizza box full of nachos for dinner, and that didn't help either. So I fell asleep, and I woke up at 11, and I said, I don't hear any cowbell outside. Did we win? Did we lose? But it turns out we won, and I just live on a really quiet street.
We don't do cowbells. It's cazuelas and pots and pans and things of that nature. By the way, I want to add something. Miami does the best celebrations ever.
We don't do a lot of predictions around here, but I'm going to make one right now. The next 4 months are going to be awful. And it begins tonight. It begins tonight with the debate.
Oh.
And the next 4 months after that are going to be horrific.
I thought you were talking about no Joey Chestnut in the hot dog eating contest.
Wannabe MSNBC analyst Pablo Torre joins us from his apartment. It's within walking distance of 30 Rockefeller Plaza, where he has been cheating on us with Morning Joe at 6 a.m. Actual MSNBC analyst Tim Miller, he's the host of the Bulwark podcast, joins us live from the Spin Room in Atlanta, where political operatives will seek to frame tonight's soap opera for people like Pablo Torre who don't understand what they're watching. The debate is at 9 p.m. Eastern on CNN and elsewhere, moderated by Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. Before, Tim, we get to the debate, though, I want to play you a clip from the other day. This is Donald Trump talking about a suggestion that he had for his good friend Dana White.
Man, I said, Dana, I have an idea. Why don't you set up a migrant league of fighters and have your regular league of fighters, and then you have the champion of your league. These are the greatest fighters in the world. Fight the champion of the migrants. I think the migrant guy might win. That's how tough they are. He didn't like that idea too much, but actually it's not the worst idea I've ever had.
Tim, your thoughts?
He's correct about that very last sentence. It is not the worst idea he's ever had. Migrant midget fights or whatever he wants to do is not a good idea, as Dana White rejected it. But so it was maybe a better idea than like putting his little mushroom dick in Stormy while his wife was in the hospital with his kids still. Maybe better idea than like hiding classified docs up the road from you guys in his bathroom in Palm Springs or Palm Beach, not Palm Springs. Palm Beach is Florida. I'm not a Florida man like you. And if I could just say, though, I'm a little hurt by Pablo taking my MSNBC slot. There is only one chair on Morning Joe for a goofy-looking elder millennial. So every time Pablo's there, that's a slot I can't have. So I appreciate you noting that, Dan.
I don't appreciate all of you trying to dox me, by the way. Dan basically introduced me by saying, guess where this guy lives, vaguely. And it's not that hard to guess. I don't believe my point beyond... How dare Tim put me in the same category as whatever it is that he does. I don't believe Dana White is saying no to this idea. I think that we're going to see, Dan, on a streaming service, Dana White alongside the ultimate slap fighting Boogaloo, actually do this thing. I'm not
Guatemala. You think we're going to have Guatemala migrant fighting, UFC? You see that happening?
I do not see that as beyond the pale as established by the people that we're discussing. Correct.
Let's play some sound here for Tim of, Donald Trump tonight is going to be talking a lot. And when he gets to talking a lot, I do think Biden's strategy should just be let him talk. Because when he talks...
Don't say a word.
He does things like this where you can just see he doesn't have anything. He's being asked about Taylor Swift. It's a very easy question, and he's got nada.
I think she's beautiful, very beautiful. I find her very beautiful. I think she's liberal. She probably doesn't like Trump, but I hear she's very talented. But I think she's very beautiful, actually. Unusually beautiful.
Yeah, we're all making the same face.
The fifth beautiful is a little creepy for me. The third beautiful is kind of okay. The fourth beautiful, I'm getting uncomfortable. The fifth beautiful, pretty creepy.
I like the threshold of the fifth beautiful because what it does, it sort of establishes that a fundamental uncontrollable horniness is one of the most honest versions of Donald Trump that you will ever hear. And it's sort of like, he's really into Taylor Swift. Didn't have that. Maybe I should have if you put everybody in a police lineup of who he's been accused of or actually been involved with. But it's like, Dan, this is the thing about how the next several months will be miserable. I'm gonna watch all of it. And as much as Donald Trump is somebody that you sort of want to let him talk and let him bury himself, he doesn't actually bury himself, even though it would bury anybody else. Like that clip alone, imagine any normal person saying it, obviously by now we all know that's sort of catastrophic.
Well, I lived through it. I can say that. I mean, your Florida guy, Jeb, when I was his comms guy, you guys might remember when he called Supergirl really hot.
Right.
And that was a horrible that was like a 72-hour disastrous news cycle for us. We had to do a cleanup interview. this stuff doesn't happen for Donald. I guess I do kind of disagree, though, a little bit with Pablo, is the fact that he says this stupid shit is what's keeping Joe Biden alive. Like, if he wasn't saying all this, Biden would be in really big trouble. And so in some ways it does hurt him. It doesn't bury him, but it does hurt him. And that's why I don't really understand. The one main critique I have with the Biden team about tonight is why they're doing the mute buttons. I would have just let Donald talk as much as possible. They like, as part of the deal of this debate, after you talk for 2 minutes, they mute your mic, which might sound good for you guys on a show like this. But for Biden, I think that you'd want Donald to keep talking as much as possible.
Pablo,
Dan,
you were trying to get in?
Yeah, I suppose my thing about are debates good or bad for Donald Trump at this point, right? Like, it makes me think about debates in general and how really what they are TV shows where we meet these people and we decide, do we want to hear more from them? Right? Like, Tim, I don't know if you can remember, if anybody who actually devotes their lives to politics remembers, yes, there is that one great duel on the issues of policy, that time that policy was decided. We all remember the memes.
Yeah.
And so for Trump, it's sort of that's his comfort zone to me. Again, absent a mutual concern about cognitive disrepair, what I'm looking at is whether Donald Trump is actually just going to be what all of us actually in our heart of hearts knows he still can be, which is occasionally funny. At times, and I say that, of course, with all the caveats apply, but Trump as reality television, sports talk radio character monster, the Sharks thing that he did before, a couple weeks ago, it was so, of course, stupid and would have been indicting of anybody who's a normal person. But it's I want Shark Trump. Give me Trump riffing on sharks. And I can just see that happening, in which you're sort of charmed by him and you sort of forget. And you being either the royal you, not you, Tim, specifically,
Yeah, sure.
but America, and I probably am more in that camp where it's I love getting stoned and watching presidential debates. And I just can't in a guilt-free way anymore for all of the obvious reasons.
Yeah, I'm immune to his charms. I will say that though there's a little bit of an advantage for Biden on the memeing side. I think this is the best thing Biden has going for him right now, because every meme about him on TikTok or anywhere else is Biden's lost, or Biden looks like he needs oatmeal, or Biden's old. So that's why really he just has to be punchy tonight. If he comes out, and even if the memes are whoa, grandpa's yelling, that's a huge plus for him. And I think there's a lot of people that aren't paying attention that closely to this thing that maybe have a mistaken impression that Biden is literally Weekend at Bernie's, rather than the fact that he is a competent old guy. And I think moving from Weekend at Bernie's to competent old guy might gain him a point among a certain demo.
You're looking at all that. I'm looking at the back of my eyelids because apparently this starts at 9. Why would they put on a debate that's past both of their bedtimes? I don't. And why are they even doing it in the first place? I don't understand.
Part of the challenge to Biden. It's see, I'm not that old. I can stay up till 10:30. Can you stay up till 10:30?
No.
I can. Yeah.
I want them both in pajamas.
That's a great idea.
Robes.
PJs.
Do you have them? Wait, Chris, do you have them with the sleeping cap with the ball at the end?
Nailed it.
Holding a candle, maybe?
Biden has that one for sure.
70 million people are expected to watch this. Is that number real?
I don't think they know, right? Because previously to this year, there was this thing called the debate commissions, and the debates ran on every network, the general election ones, not the primary. And so this is the first time it's only ran on one network since 1976 or something. And it was, because neither campaign wanted to deal with the debate commission. Trump thought they were biased, and, Biden wanted different rules than last time. So we'll see. I think there are going to be big numbers. Look, if you told people that hey, airing on CNN tonight is a food fight in a senior citizen's home, I think that'd do 10 million, even if the presidency wasn't at stake. So I think there'll be good numbers tonight.
Pablo, can you help me understand why we can't do better? Do I have this right? Kennedy had a heroin addiction for more than a decade. How can we not do better than this crop of candidates?
Because nobody that I know, and again, I keep on saying this, I want our friend Dominic Foxworth to run for president. I want people that I know in life who are overqualified and don't run for president to run for president, because currently wanting to run for president, Tim, is to me almost disqualifying in our generation.
Yeah.
You think about it's literally in my case the worst people I went to college with. And the worst people all of us remember, Vivek Ramaswamy, Elise Stefanik. I went to school with both of them, and I wish I could say that was a look at me, Louie. It's actually one of the most depressing sentences that I have to say.
Thank you. On your game.
But these are people who are calculating to a point of totally abdicating whatever used to be the recognizable version of themselves. And so if you want to be a person, Dan, who gets watched by 70 million people, in, again, the only non-sports monoculture that doesn't involve Taylor Swift, there is something, I think, that animates your nerve endings. It also kind of makes you a psychopath, given what you got to do, especially now in this current Republican Party, to have to get there. And so people who are good are incentivized to not think it's worth it.
I mean, the ante on the Republican Party, like just to even get at the table, you have to tell a preposterous lie about the 2020 elections. Like that's like the first ante. If you're not willing to say that, you're out. And I think the Democrats really felt in a lot of ways stuck in the box with Joe Biden. And so we are where we are.
Tim, you've got to get out of here, but just real quick, because you ran communications for the Jeb Bush campaign, the VP option that is scariest for Trump to align himself with for America is?
Scariest in the concept of might help Trump the most, I think, is Marco. Just because I do think Marco kind of gives off an air of normalcy despite the ears, and I think that he could help with a couple of demos. Trump's already doing better with Hispanic men. The scariest, as far as like would be Trump's VP and would be willing to go along with his most nefarious schemes, I think that would be J.D. Vance for sure.
Tim will be on MSNBC all day. Pablo will not. Check out the Bulwark podcast and Pablo Torre Finds Out. Thank you, Tim. Stugotz, you've been handing me notes throughout all
I just want one of them, just in, the interest of being fair, one of you say something bad about Biden, okay?
Didn't I call him an old man? Didn't I call him an old man that was barely competent? And that's much preferable than the alternative. Is that not fair?
No, not really. Pablo, say something bad about Biden.
That guy really can't ride a bike, obviously. So
I disagree with that. I think he's a skilled bike rider. All right, see you, Stugotz.
See you. Thank you. Not the
Classic
note I
MSM.
thought Stugotz was giving me, because he was writing me that the greatest debate of all time is Stephen A. versus Skip about whether or not LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan.
It was on the heels of Scottie Pippen saying that he thought LeBron was better than Michael. That was the greatest debate of all time. It was. Sorry I didn't ask that.
Pablo Torre Finds Out every day. Sorry we doxed you, Pablo. Thank you for being on with us.
It's okay, Dan. It's not like I have a small daughter or anything.
Yes. Okay. Good seeing you again.
Sports monoculture? This guy's a dork.
Hey, it's Mike. We're back in the chat room with another classic interview. Today's throwback is with actor J.K. Simmons. You might remember Simmons from his fiery performance as the sadistic teacher in Whiplash, or as J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man trilogy. Let's get into it.
J.K. Simmons has become a friend of the show because every once in a while he comes through here and we remind him about his 2-2-gram past. 2-2-grams, is that what they were called?
Yes.
I hope everybody gets to age as gracefully as you have.
Oh, gee, thanks. Yeah.
Weird.
Am I supposed to talk about how gracefully I'm aging now, or about?
Yeah, he did ask you two questions.
No,
there,
what
yes.
I'm saying is, like, you've had just this great career resurgence after 50, and it's just nice to see because you're really talented and you pick good projects.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and now that I have a bunch of trophies on the shelf, I have more to pick from, which is a great benefit from that.
It's not as unusual as Liam Neeson becoming an action star later in his acting career, but isn't your story unusual?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's unique. In fact, unique to me. I was schlepping around for a long time, making $112 a week doing theater in Buffalo or wherever, and loving life. It's not like that was horrible either. But about the time I finally decided to grow up and settle down and get married and have some kids was about the time I started actually making a living and one thing's led to another. I'm like a big snowball rolling downhill at this point.
And so Counterpart is part of the Avalanche. So you get a part of this, and what drew you to the project?
Justin Mark's script. I always tell my agent I don't want to know anything about it. I don't want to know the synopsis, the back, anything. I just want to read the script. And so I didn't even know about the big sort of bombshell that happens on page 20-something. I was just reading along, and they said this character named Howard, and I fell in love with the way this guy writes and the world he creates and who this character is. And then, yeah, like I said, I get to page 20-something, and they bring Howard into this room, and it's all hush-hush and secret, and then the big bombshell gets dropped, which I know. It was so cool to me when I was reading it. I thought, I wish audiences could experience that same sort of moment, but I think everybody's going to know that there are two of me.
What would you say is the most unusual acting experience of your life in this regard? Two of you is unusual, but it's been done before, weird as it is. What would you say is the most unusual thing you've had to do in this regard?
Well, it's my first time for two of me, so this would be the most unusual for me, except, of course, for the 2 grams
right
stage, which was unusual and remains unique in my personal experience.
How about having your wife directing you in a movie, I'm Not Here? How was that? Was that unique? That had to be a weird experience for you.
Especially since we met as theater actors, and she's this, cute little Broadway baby. And yeah, fast forward to whatever 20-some years, and now she's directing me in film. But I'm used to getting bossed around by her anyway. So really,
well, I was going to say, was there any awkwardness on the set? Like, was there any one memorable moment where you remember? Well, that doesn't feel very good to have that happen in public.
Well, I'm just kind of naked in the movie a lot, so it was a little awkward in general. But it was honestly, that was a great film to be directed by your wife instead of some random stranger saying, "All right, now walk over there with your lily white butt." He puts on a robe eventually, so I don't want audiences to be frightened. And she wanted me to basically be naked a lot and look as bad as possible naked. So there were the two options of put on a bunch of weight and be kind of fat and bloated and gross, or get kind of scrawny and emaciated, which just seemed healthier to me and appealed to what's left of my vanity. So that was the option that I went for. And I had the Santa Claus beard at the time, and it was just a couple of months after that the photo that broke the internet of my massive guns came out, which with the big beard, which my friend's son called Shredded Santa.
And I don't mind telling you, you look good naked. I don't mind telling you.
Thanks.
Yes, you're welcome. you should strut around proudly. We like this guy. He just makes great decisions. He really does. You cannot spell jacked without the JK. Thank you, JK. We appreciate your time, sir.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Stu.
All right, JK.
He's Mick overrated, Greg's exonerated, that's Connor McDavid. Greg made a take, stuck to his guns, and then the Ice Cats won. They were up 3-0, lost 3 in a row, and we weren't having fun. Back in Sunrise, we got right and punched out your lights. So sleep tight with Gunsmite, Lord Stanley's ours tonight. Oh, you know he's Mick overrated, Greg's exonerated, that's Connor McDavid. Oh, he's Mick overrated, Greg's exonerated, that's Connor McDavid. He's Mick Let's put up billboards now. Let's put up billboards now. He's Mick overrated, Greg's exonerated, that's Connor McDavid. He's Mick overrated, Greg's exonerated, that's Connor McDavid. He's Mick overrated, Greg's exonerated, that's
The Billy Gill fan club, Gatos Mafia on X, is wishing everyone a happy Onion Day to all of those who celebrate. I think this is the anniversary of Billy Gill as part of a grid of death punishment, having to eat an entire raw onion. He got a couple of bites in and was hospitalized, said that he got very sick from the eating of an onion. Yeah, it was very loud each time that he did it. It was sort of disgusting because onions can be disgusting when eaten that way.
And we did not find this sound on YouTube because you can find everything on YouTube. This is actually Billy biting into the onion.
Lucy, how do you imagine that would go for you if you lost a grid of death punishment? I didn't have it evolving into hospitalization for Billy, but it did happen.
Well, one thing about me is I am a quitter, so I just would not do it. I would quit. I would quit the job. Not for the onion. I could not do that onion.
I think didn't DJ Khaled quit Hot Ones? Didn't he quit a couple of bites into the hot sauce and embarrass himself internationally? I thought that was
what does this
my
guy
hero.
eat?
I do the same thing.
His third wing.
That's relatable to me. I find it more annoying when someone just can do all of it and not sweat at all. I like DJ Khaled for that.
Lewis Hamilton. He was like, I'll eat another wing. I'll
David
finish
Sampson.
these wings and I'll eat one more.
Can he still not taste food?
Yeah, David Sampson doesn't have taste or smell anymore, and continues.
Is that a bit, Dan? Can
No,
you
it's
be
not
honest
a
with
bit.
us?
Well, it's not. No, it's not a bit.
You've seen his baseball mitt chair. He doesn't have any taste.
My thing with David that I just don't get is you don't have any taste or smell. And if I didn't have that, I would just be eating the healthiest shit all the time. But he's constantly just eating candy. Where you're not even getting anything out of that. You're just eating the candy for no reward.
Such a nightmare because he says he still has the cravings for it. And so his brain knows when he's eating that candy that that's what it used to be, except he doesn't actually get the fulfillment. What a nightmare.
Great ones say not today to their bodies.
It's a texture thing, but I'm with you. I would think he'd be eating cauliflower and broccoli all day just because it doesn't matter. But evidently the Mike and Ike's and the chewy stuff, there's something about the texture.
Just eat some fruit then, so you still get the sugar. So your body's like, oh, okay, I'm having a strawberry here, but you're just not eating just straight up a bag of candy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Maybe he gets
Just a
gassy
bag.
from the fruit, though. We
It's
never
a-
asked him that.
A bag full of candy.
Yeah, it's a giant bag of candy. Yes,
It's a candy salad.
Yes,
He mixes it all up.
that's correct. It's strange, and there's some bad candy in there. He likes black licorice.
That's disgusting.
Well, that's the worst candy. I think
not that bad.
I think that you
Oh,
might.
it is nasty.
Well,
Jeremy, black licorice fan?
I've got no problem with it. I don't think it's that bad. It's not my preference, but I don't think it's bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's as bad as its reputation, but
Right.
it's not my favorite also. I'm a chocolate person.
Mhm.
I don't eat non-chocolate candies.
What's the candy? So you're saying black licorice is the candy that has a bad reputation. What's the candy that we love that's reputation is too good?
Hershey's chocolate.
Yeah.
Strong.
Actually, that's a great answer.
I think black licorice, if I threw this out to the audience, you guys might argue that it's not that bad, but I would think we'd come closer to consensus on it would be the runaway winner on worst candy.
Candy corn?
I happen to like candy corn.
Me too, but I think people hate candy corn.
All right,
overall.
put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Worst candy, black licorice or candy corn? Because I do believe that black licorice runs away with this with most people. I think vastly more people don't like black licorice. I don't like Jägermeister just because it's in the vicinity of black licorice. It's a foul taste, and for you to say that it's not bad, Jeremy, is in keeping with how you've been today, because that draft last night was black licorice, and you're the only one here who liked it. You're the only one here who thought that draft was interesting.
I did. I thought there were some really interesting human stories. I thought there were interesting sections of the draft where players went back to back to back, and there were moves or filling needs for certain teams that you don't get to see any other night than the NBA draft, including Rob Dillingham being traded for an 11-year-old. Because it was a 2031 first-round pick traded to the Spurs for Rob Dillingham.
There were a couple of 2030 picks and 2031 picks, and I don't think there's anything that 2024 fans care about less than a draft pick in the next decade. I think every NBA fan listening to this would trade that for anybody that would help.
I think to your point too, Dan, is like the transition from high school to college and having those college stars in the men's game. 12. So the first 12 picks, 6 of them were either G League Ignite or from another country, right? And you're like, you're looking around at who your stars are in the United States as far as your college players. Reed Shepherd, first guy taken off the board from college. Is he a star? Did we know who he was before we saw him in that olive green suit? I don't know.
Donovan Clingan, back-to-back national champion. He
Friend of
goes
the show.
7 to the Blazers, which also continues to make their package that they received back for Damian Lillard funnier and funnier when you look at where those moves have all gone, including the trade for Denny Avdia yesterday. But it was in a row. Clingan, and then the Rob Dillingham pick that was supposed to be to the Spurs to pair with Wemby. He ends up in Minnesota. An awesome move for Minnesota, who couldn't acquire talent above the minimum this offseason. So they go trade for a player who will make more money than that and has that level of talent for an 11-year-old. And then the 9th pick right after that was Zach Edey. And so you had really interesting storylines going along. You'll see Ja Morant and Zach Edey, throwing alley-oops. That'll be a fun combination. But there are different pockets of the draft that really piqued my interest in some cool human interest stories, including A.J. Johnson, who went there, sat in the crowd because he wasn't invited as a member of the green room, sat there with his family, and ended up being drafted in the first round and got to walk out of the crowd and celebrate.
I feel like between this show, who thinks Portland is like the biggest joke ever, and ESPN, who's like, Portland is pretty cool, I am getting no sane takes about anything happening in Portland. Is there any like third party that we can bring in here that can just give me an actual analysis on
Can I just read it
Portland?
out loud? Damian Lillard in 2 second-round picks becomes Robert Williams, DeAndre Ayton, Donovan Clingan, who will replace one of them, Denny Avdia, Toumani Camara, 1 Milwaukee first-round pick in 2029, and the ability to swap picks in 2028 and 30. That's the rebuild.
Bronny was not drafted. He will likely go in the second round. Has anyone gotten an answer to what if he did play with his father, what he would refer to his father as on the court? Is it going to be like, is he going to hold up his hand and say, Dad? He's not going to say LeBron, right? Like what? Like
Daddy?
Pops? Daddy?
Daddy's
Big
crazy.
dog.
Daddy's crazy.
Big dog.
Daddy. It's not going to be Daddy.
That's crazy.
Hey, Daddy-O.
It's not going to be. And Daddy-O, what are you, at a 50 sock hop? Like, what do you mean Daddy-O?
Better than Daddy.
I don't think
I have a friend, one of my friends, he's older than I am. He's still when he'll be talking to his sister, did you talk to mommy and daddy? Like they all refer to their parent, and they're in their 30s.
Do they play hoops together?
3 of their kids in their 30s, and they talk about their parents. Did you talk to mommy and daddy? Are they going to be here soon?
Growing up in the South, a lot of people had weird names for like their grandparents. Like people were like, oh, this is Mimi and Pee-Pee. And you're like, you're what? You're like,
Pawpaw.
yeah, Mimi Pee-Pee over here. And you're like, all right.
Abu.
When did your parents stop referring to the other spouse as mommy or daddy? Like, was that? I noticed
Still
when I
happening.
was like too old once. My mom called my dad daddy.
Divorce.
It got changed on me in college. I was Danny.
Ooh.
Throughout college. My byline was Danny throughout college, and then it just. Sort of,
We're gonna bring that back,
Mike
Jack.
Wilbon calls you Danny.
Yeah. Well, that's why he calls me Danny. That's the reason that he calls me Danny. is
Was
because-
Daniel too serious for you? You were like trying to seem young and hip.
No, I wasn't trying. I was young and I was not hip. I was just named Danny. Like that's what everyone was calling me. I was
Little
not.
Danny Le Batard.
I didn't go by
Bopping
Danny
down the street.
to be hip. I went by Daddy O. Daddy O is what I was going with. Let's get the video of Billy, please, just eating onion here. Nine days ago, Charlotte Wilder was on top of the sports mountain. She was in her goggles. She had champagne in Boston. And then last night, she reported from what was the worst draft in any sport ever, while Chris, Mike, and even Taylor were at the club with the Panthers and the Stanley Cup. The Celtics had no such party when they were in Miami. There was no Larry O'Brien trophy in the Atlantic Ocean. Are you feeling jealous and like the basketball championship was a long time ago, Charlotte?
First of all, thanks for having me on, Danny. Yeah, I heard some people in that room say, Jeremy Taché, that was really fun last night. That was not super fun. Didn't have a super good time. In fact, I'm actually mad at the draft because, as you said, Danny, I was on a high last week. I was so happy. Everything was so great. I've since crashed. I had the dopamine come down. And now I'm like, oh my God, looking forward to the season. And the draft makes you think about how all these other teams are getting better. And the Celtics I liked what they did though. And then I go to the draft and it made me feel stupid and bad at my job because I didn't know who these people were, to be quite frank with you. I think we have a video of these guys. Does anybody in there know who all of these people are? This video of this draft class?
Who is this guy here? I'm looking at a
There's
video.
Connect.
The videos are far away
Dillingham.
from me, and I see you in the video. The computer that has these, I can't see it from here, so it's too far for me to be able to see who these people are. I'm not getting
There's
very
Bob.
good footage. Thank you.
Reed Shepard.
my guy Jared.
There's the guy from Duke.
Jeremy's guy.
Yeah,
The
okay.
kid with Keyshawn George in the back from Miami.
Reed Shepard looks like an accountant.
Yes, he does.
One guy's name is Furphy.
You guys are doing a better job than I thought.
Okay, And was Alex Sarr in there somewhere? No?
Yeah, he's right there in the back, right?
Yeah. He's
Is
right
that him?
there.
Donovan
Yeah.
Klingen, maybe?
Yeah, Donovan Klingen. Okay, well,
We
I
know
guess I
names.
learned something last night. But heading into it, I didn't really know a whole lot of what was going on, and it was. I don't know, guys. We're in the basement. of
That's good.
Barclays.
That's good
I'm walking
coverage,
around.
Charlotte. I appreciate it.
Look.
Oddball every day except for Monday. The analysis has to be better than that, Charlotte. And if it's not, you have to bluff your way through the communication better than that. You can't stumble through your words and then fall on your face.
Okay. Well, what analysis specifically would you like?
Well, you were
Dan?
around it. I would like analysis that wows me with I don't know, something beyond I don't know who these guys are either. Like I don't. Jeremy has got so much annoying analysis on the Heat's draft pick.
Khalil Ware.
He's got so much, Charlotte. Like if you could give me anything that's more interesting than Jeremy's annoying Heat analysis.
Okay, first of all, Jeremy, respect your knowledge. Second of all, Dan, the thing that actually was happening at the draft last night was that Knicks fans were there freaking out because things are actually good in New York. I was shocked. We were in the concourse before. I was doing a little man on the street, not to brag as one does. And all these Knicks fans that were stopping by to talk to me. And in the past, when I have done man on the street and asked multiple Knicks fans to talk to me, I've gotten a lot of FUs. I've gotten a lot of just like straight walk by, don't even look at me. And everybody was so happy to talk. I had New Yorkers, Dan, saying to me, the power of friendship, you can't put a price on that. New Yorkers talking about like being friendly, talking about friendship. I was like, something is happening here once they got all of those Nova guys back together on the Knicks. So the vibe at Barclays was very much like about other players, not about who was going to get drafted that night, which I did find very interesting.
Charlotte, did you just not to brag doing a man on the street with like random people?
Yeah.
That might be
It's
like
kind of a big
the
deal.
worst look at me Louie of all time, with all due respect, to the fans.
People
Not to brag.
in New York are very excited about the fact that they're doing things competently, that they don't, they've been a laughing stock for the entirety of this century. And I blanched a little bit at the price tag on Anunoby. That's not what I would have thought he would have gotten before last year started.
Right. Well, I asked a bunch of New Yorkers about that, and they all, I think that the can't put a price on friendship thing came up a lot with that. I think also, though, Dan, that like New York fans have had such horrible experiences with who the New York Knicks have taken in the first round of the draft that they're sort of like, cool, let's just get rid of these picks for someone that we know is good instead of a Kevin Knox or a Frank or, there are too many guys who have not panned out. So that my experience with these Knicks fans last night was that they were a little freaked at the price, but then once they found out that OG Anunoby was re-signing, I think that also started to go away. They're just feeling great. I had one woman say to me, actually say into our camera, she said, "I love you, Leon Rose." And I was like, what does it feel like to genuinely believe that you trust your front office? And she almost started to cry.
Well, let me ask you about something I was discussing earlier, right? It wasn't that long ago that Trae Young was going into New York and was villain number one, and the Atlanta Hawks were getting to this point in the postseason that the Knicks have gotten to. I said earlier in the show, for all the enthusiasm around the Knicks, I just watched Dallas beat 350-win teams in the West that I believe to still be better than the Knicks. And you do what with what I'm saying there? When I'm saying that there were 3 teams I just watched Dallas beat that I still think are better than the Knicks, but the Knicks are now the second best betting favorite in the league to win the title because people are looking that favorably on Bridges. I can't believe that that's how high the Knicks have climbed in the last couple of days. I don't believe it. Like, it's a fact, but I don't believe it. I don't believe that that's a real thing.
Wait, really? I didn't know that. They're the second favorite to win the title next year?
That was, betting favorite. Yes.
So is Colorado, by the way.
Betting favorite?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess, Dan, what I would do with that is say that the East is not as strong as the West. And I think that the Knicks a lot depends on what they can do at center. I think that if they can get Isaiah Hartenstein back, which is looking very unlikely now that they got OG Anunoby back, I feel like Mikal Bridges is going to be a great addition to the team. I think that all those guys who've gone into New York have played better than they had before, have risen to the, it's the power of friendship, as I always say. You're right. Great environment, makes people feel good, makes them play well. All of these guys are friends. It's working out for them. But I do think that there are a bunch of questions at center that are going to affect that. So I'm sort of shocked, too, that they're the second favorite. But also, these guys played, missing feet and arms and limbs and still managed to make it almost to the Eastern Conference Finals. But they didn't.
They are the second favorite.
Knicks fans right now are hating this.
In the Eastern Conference, they're the second favorite, Dan and Charlotte, or Danny and Charlotte. But the Thunder and the Knicks are tied for third best odds. It goes Celtics, then the Nuggets, and then the Thunder and the Knicks. So 2 orange and blue teams.
Well, you're using the correct odds, Jeremy. I'm going to send you. You're going to tell me what the source was on this that I got sent. I just texted it to you because the correct odds are the ones from DraftKings. So I had odds that are incorrect only because the only ones that matter are DraftKings odds. But there are other betting services that have different numbers for that. I do imagine and I do think that Denver has to be considered someone still a team that's still better than the Knicks. But you're saying that the hope is now earned, correct? They have erased 25 years of mismanagement with the idea that beyond the hope, there is now belief that there is competence there.
Yeah, I don't know if they've erased it, Danny. Listen, this is a very interesting situation to me here because if you have a team that has exceeded expectations, but you're still like, I don't know if they're going to do the thing. If they win a title, all is forgiven. All is forgiven. If they just keep getting close after years of not getting close, when do fans get fed up with getting close? So I think that
they need to get close before fans get fed up with close because they are not yet close. Like the second round, the second round does not. The second round is better than not the first round, but the second round isn't yet close. They got beat by Indiana.
Yeah, I do think that the Knicks are experts in keeping the bar so low that when you just step over it, fans start to flip out. And then if you start to jump a little bit, like if you get some air off the ground, fans are like, oh my God, what is this feeling? So maybe it's a sign that everybody should just do their worst for 20 years. And then people will love you when you start doing your best. Look, what Jalen Brunson does is absolutely unbelievable. And he is, no matter what happens from here on out, I think that he's a god in New York forever just because he made people feel something positive. But I think that this team is a good shot. I think it depends on so many other things working out. But look, if they stay healthy, I think that is the biggest caveat of all. But people in New York are just like, if nothing else, I'm grateful to the Knicks for making the streets of New York pretty pleasant right now. I almost don't know what to do with myself.
Enough with the Knicks. We had a whole NBA first round of a draft last night, and we're talking about the Knicks. How does this keep happening? Charlotte, do you have any overall NBA draft takeaways other than you didn't know any of the players, and most of us didn't really either?
And that's why we're talking about the Knicks, by the way. They did transactions.
There's got to be something,
with
Dan.
players we know.
I'm asking an NBA expert. Please give me something here.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's always the sexier names are what I'm like, oh, what, the Knicks? Fun, cool. I think that I'm worried about the French. That's what I'll say. I'm worried about the French. I think that in a few years, the French national team. Are you guys worried about the French? Let me pose a question to the room. Are the French in a basketball sense scary?
They had a good night. No? They had a good night, and they've got that extraterrestrial that that is going to grow into the most dominant player in the sport if he doesn't get hurt.
I just think in a couple years, Alexander Sarr, Zachary Risacher. Look, they're coming for us. We have to be ready. We have to be vigilant. And they also are very polished. Like just looking at those French guys in the interview room afterwards, and their suits look so nice, and they sound, really smart because they've got these French accents.
Let's go back to last year when you did this interview for some reason with Wembanyama, in which you weren't holding a microphone. You were just, or not a microphone that was professional. You just seem and look like a very giddy high school person, just holding a rant. Well, because look at this microphone. This is not the most professional interview Wembanyama has ever done.
Is that my fault? Is that my fault that we had a little lob that I had to hold up to Victor Wembanyama?
I don't know whose fault it was.
Am I supposed to? Is this a BYOM situation?
I don't know where you got this microphone, why we didn't give you a better microphone, but let's look at this together and you explain what's happening here.
And how do you say remember the Alamo in French?
Sorry?
Can you say remember the Alamo in French?
Remember the Elmo?
Yeah.
What is the Elmo?
It's a San Antonio thing.
Souvenez-vous du Elmo?
Amazing. Thank you so much.
He thought
Congrats.
you said
Have a
Elmo.
great night.
That is not the Alamo. He thought you said Elmo. What kind of work was that?
That work was being like, do you remember the Alamo? And he's like, I don't know what that is because I've been in America for like 2 seconds at this point. Dan, I waited outside the men's bathroom for Victor Wembanyama to come out so that I could interview him. That was not giddy high school energy. That was me flipping out because I was like, this feels invasive. This guy's just trying to get to draft night, but also like content is king. And look how far I had to reach.
No, this
I don't even know if I could hold up a proper microphone for that long. I think it's good I had a lav.
This freeze frame is wonderful for a number of reasons. Will you guys look at the look of confusion on Wembanyama's face as Charlotte
Elmo
as Charlotte thrusts
the Elmo?
The full extension of her arm and that tiny microphone into his confused face.
Yeah. You know, I didn't get any of that last night, Dan. I didn't corner any tall Frenchmen by the restrooms. I probably should have tried harder.
You were as obsessed as we were with Tommy DeVito's agent when he became famous last year, Sean Stellato. He was with the Pope here recently, and we have some footage somehow of him. I don't understand this, of him giving the Pope a football. Tommy DeVito's agent really has made it to the top of sport and religion by giving this football to the Pope. How does this happen? What is happening here?
There's an old Italian children's storybook. If you give a pope a football, he'll ask for a helmet. And then if you give him a helmet... No, look, I don't know. This guy's everywhere. Sean Stellato is... Okay, thank you. Sean Stellato is like, he is still riding this high of Tommy DeVito having like 4 good games last year. I saw this on Instagram because I follow Sean Stellato. Remember when we interviewed him? That was fun.
Yes.
Anyway, I followed him on Instagram and he posted that and I was like, okay, well, he's reached his final form. Do you think the Pope has ever held a football before?
Yes. Charlotte, my culture is not your content.
My bad. Sorry.
It's probably hold a football, but not a football.
I think Jim Harbaugh was actually in the Vatican like 2 months ago. I shudder to think what that conversation was like.
But did he give the Pope a football?
I'm pretty sure the Pope has received several American footballs.
Charlotte, how do you feel about knowing that in the NBA now there is a Nikola Jokic, a Nikola Jovic, and a Nikola Topic?
Listen, Jeremy, don't let this go to your head. I retweeted your tweet about that.
Oh my God, you did? Thanks, Charlotte.
Yeah, you're welcome. I know. Once again,
funny.
not to brag. Look, there's so many, and I like the Bojan Bogdanovic and Bogdan Bogdanovic and Boban Marjanovic. See, this is...
It's tough.
You got to worry... What?
It's tough. It's tough.
Did you say stop?
No, you're allowed to stumble over some of that. You were trying to say it quickly, and it's quite the tongue twister. I don't blame you for stumbling there.
What do you guys think the
I
Pope...
thought I did a pretty good job.
What do you guys think the Pope wears underneath the robe? Like some Skims,
Football
maybe?
pads.
Skims.
Yeah, like
Skims?
Skim, like a partnership, like an influencer.
Maybe some khaki shorts, like Jim Harbaugh. Like what's going on under there?
They have garments, I'm pretty sure.
Mesh shorts.
Women's underwear.
Now you're talking.
That's una fata repeto, I think. I just wanted to put that out there. I think that felt like una fata repeto.
It is. It is a falta de respeto is Spanish for it. That's a lack of respect, and that's indisputably a correct accusation to file at me. Yeah,
I'm just curious.
It is disrespectful for me to suggest that underneath the cloak and the repressions there is a freak screaming to get out. It is not respectful. You are correct.
I'm Jewish, so I would like to be excluded from this whole narrative. I just, you just thought you give a pope a football. I would give a rabbi a football. I think more clergy should carry footballs around. I think it would be pretty funny if in the middle of a service, he's just like, Baruch atah Adonai, and go long, and just like chucks it into the. It's not an audience. What do you call it at a
congregation?
Service? The crowd?
A congregation.
That might be it.
Harbaugh gave him a helmet, by the way. So we need someone to bring over some shoulder pads next.
Charlotte.
So has he ever received a football before? Question still stands.
Dalton Knecht fell in the draft. Sorry, I apologize. You're right. Dalton Knecht fell in the draft all the way to the Lakers. And so having an older player that is probably going to perform well right away in the league, combined with being a white guy on the Lakers, how much oversaturation in the media do you expect on Dalton Knecht?
Haven't we already had it? I feel like all I've heard since the draft is about Dalton Knecht, which, to be fair, falling to 17, I do think that I thought he was going to go higher, but it is too perfect that J.J. Redick becomes the head coach of the Lakers, and there is a white guy who shoots threes, and he from a school in the South, and he's like, well, let's just run it back. If I can't be out there on the court, at least I can have someone as my proxy. But I do think, Jeremy, you're right. He's 23. He's going to play. He's going to play well. And then there are all these, I think the big takeaway from that video, besides, who are these guys that we played in the beginning of that draft class, is that they all look very young because they're all 18 years old. And 18, maybe I'm just old now, but I don't hate the idea of someone
Those look like a bunch of those photographs or the video that you just showed me looked like a bunch of high school kids is what it looked like very young children.
Do you guys know that the Pope shaves more than once every day? Up to 3 times a day.
Really?
Is that right?
His face?
That's what the internet's telling me.
Can they not have facial hair? It's like the Yankees. You can only have a mustache.
Oh, I'd love to see the Pope with a mustache.
His face, asked Charlotte at Le Batard Show. Did you know that the Pope shaves 3 times a day? The background that you have there, Charlotte, it looks like a bathroom tile in a bad motel. I understand that there is something on it there. There's skyscrapers and skyline on it, but where are you? That looks like bathroom tile.
I think it's supposed to be subway tile with a sepia-toned overlay of the New York City skyline across it, Dan. And what you can't see is a little bit higher. It says the Dan Le Batard with Stugotz. It says the Dan Le Batard with Stugotz in the subway font.
Sean Connery?
So I think this is supposed to be a subway situation. I don't know. I walked in and it was here, and I think whoever made it did a really look at that.
Keep
look,
panning
I'm in
out,
a subway.
please.
I'm podcasting in a subway.
Okay, keep panning out there. Whoever's handling that, keep panning out until it betrays her, and you see how flimsy everything around her actually is. Keep panning out.
It looks good in
keep
here.
Panning out. Keep going further and further out. Keep going out so that people can see how it is that nothing that is behind her is actually real. That it's all fake.
What? I'm in a subway right now. Can you hear the trains going by?
It is a better background when we can see the NYC thing.
Yeah, it is. Too bad we didn't do it that way. Charlotte, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate it. Oddball.
Thanks, Danny.
Every
Always
day
a pleasure.
except Monday. That was one too many Dannys. You crossed the line.
Falta respeto.
It was one too many. Falta respeto.
The fifth beautiful.
It's not nice to have someone call
Shout
you
out to
something
the
other
Pope.
than your name, is it, Dan?
Be quiet, Iowa. Can you guys tell me, because we have not talked about this yet around here somehow, J.J. Redick becoming the coach of the Lakers and then doing the bleep off, bleep you press conference where he is being maximum Redick and giving up a career that would have been exceptional in media and high paying and creative in media and less miserable than coaching will be when he realizes how little control he actually has over the results once the games are starting, no matter how much of a control freak he is and no matter how much preparation he has. I thought that J.J. Redick made an exceptional choice for him because media will always be available to him. He can come back to it. The Lakers' job does not become available all the time. You get one chance at that. But the journey to getting that job, super unusual, and basically he got that job with zero experience, going right to the front of the line the way Derek Fisher did, the way that Steve Kerr did, because we associate him with being smart about basketball, and we associate him with being smart about basketball because he did a podcast that was good and because he does media well. Went right to the front of the line. We saw Steve Kerr be very successful that way. We saw Derek Fisher not be successful that way at all. Steve Kerr had his choice of those jobs, by the way, before the Knicks were run well. Steve Kerr could have had the Knicks job or the Warriors job. He chose the Warriors job. It was a good choice. The Lakers job does not become open very often. But, like I've told you before, they have finished higher than a 7 seed once in the last 12 years. That is a really hard job he just inherited, and his centerpiece is the oldest player in the league. I suppose you can keep expecting LeBron to be great when you give him a 3-year max that's going to pay him something like $70 million in the last year. But I don't know that you can just expect him to be great and healthy into his 40s playing basketball. That is not an easy job. He just left an easy job for a job that is much harder in a West where the young people have already ravaged his team.
Dan, I think you're going to end up being right on this conversation. You remember you were saying that he was going to have a better post-playing career as far as monetarily and things that he would do than in his actual playing career? I think you're on track.
No, Dan stumbled into that. He meant in media versus playing in the NBA.
Yeah, no one thought he was going to be the coach of the Lakers.
No one was like,
Dan
what
had
if
an
we
idea.
what if we sprinkle in Lakers head coach into that post-game career?
Okay, but I will.
Well said.
I mean, yes, not very well said.
I was out all night at 11. And it's been a
You
long
were
morning.
out at 11. You were out
I
at
didn't
11.
stay
like
up till
on
11.
Game
Are
7.
you crazy?
You guys know the Pope only has one lung?
What? Every Pope?
Mike
No, not
Francesa?
every Pope. As a teenager, a serious infection came upon him, and the Pope underwent surgery to remove a lung, a procedure that likely would have been avoided today thanks to advancements in antibiotics.
You're just reading about the Pope while we're doing the show?
Spackling, Dano.
How do you survive with one lung?
He is going to make an extraordinary amount of money, but he just put on the shelf a multi-million-dollar property. Like his media job, he had one of the best seats courtside in the media, and his side project, he owned it. It was his. He didn't have to share it with anybody. I can't believe, honestly, that he's gotten a better job than the one he had.
That's right. It's time for Thursday Thunder, and it is sponsored by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Tony, what do you got? Juju cooked it up.
Juju cooked it up. We are staying in the WNBA matchups for tonight. We've got the first leg of Thursday Thunder is over 16.5 points for Kelsey Mitchell. Over 16. He doesn't have the sound effects, so we'll just do, mouth sound effects. Second leg, over 6.5 assists for Caitlin Clark tonight. Late start for the Indiana versus Seattle.
It's so late.
10 o'clock start. Wow. And last leg, over 13.5 points for Ezzy McBeggar. Sorry.
Excellent. That's good work by you,
Sorry.
Tony.
Oh, you stay out of this analyzation.
He's on the Storm.
She's on the Storm tonight, over 13.5 points for Ezzy. That's your Thursday Thunder.
We're in a contract here. We've got to do better.
So is she. She just signed a new contract.
Sound effects got to be better. The
sound effects are pretty good. Whoever did that is really talented.
Has to be better. I saw that Hallmark, I don't know how the people listening to this feel about Hallmark, but the greeting card industry, a commercial enterprise that basically was simply created to profit off of emotion. No one does that better than Hallmark. They're associated with syrup, and Hallmark is now making a movie. I think it's called a Christmas movie, Holiday Touchdown, a Kansas City love story about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. We can play that video now of Travis Kelce on stage with Taylor Swift. A lot of people loved this because he's in a tuxedo. He's filled with romance. He's very confident on stage.
Clicking the heels.
He clicked his heels.
Oh my God.
He is very much in love. And I saw the other day that Dave Grohl had the audacity to be, mildly. I don't think he even mentioned Taylor Swift by name, but it seemed mildly critical to the Swifties. And as young people are wont to do with any level of age, wisdom, or expertise, credentials at this point, they dismissed Dave Grohl as a musician. And it's like, what are you doing? You can't be that ignorant. You can be, but you can't be. You can't be so ignorant as to dismiss Dave Grohl, who has had, who's got wild range and has had successes in multiple places that are like Hall of Fame eternal. Like, what are you doing?
They've sort of pivoted. There's this popular TikTok going around right now that was Dave Grohl is wrong, and a reason for that is because he was part of a band, and Kurt Cobain would have loved Taylor Swift. I don't think there's anyone Kurt Cobain would have hated more than Taylor Swift. He's super anti-billionaire pop stars. That was his whole thing.
Dave Grohl almost, I'm going to say he introduced me to the idea that music videos could be funny. Everybody was taking them so seriously before. That's where I start with Dave Grohl, just creatively. Never mind musically, that he can do everything that you ask him to do on stage.
Learn to Fly. That's such a funny music video with Jack Black accidentally doing cocaine on a plane, and Dave Grohl's dressed as a woman and a baby, and all these things are going on. My favorite Dave Grohl clip ever is him doing an interview with Pharrell, and they're talking about Smells Like Teen Spirit, and Dave Grohl's like, yeah, I stole all of that from the Gap Band. Everything I've done has all been from disco. It is the best video ever.
It blows Pharrell's mind when he says it. You see it all click in his head, sort of like those memes where all the math equations are going. He's like, oh my God, you did steal it from R&B.
It was also his comment was very benign, right? He was saying that they don't use backing tracks, so they make mistakes during their live shows. Mm-hmm. It's like, guys, it's going to be okay. That wasn't there's so many meaner things that people say. That one was not one of the top mean things.
Attacking Dave Grohl's credentials. You guys have seen this, right? This is happening more and more. Never mind if you disagree with person X's politics, but if you disagree with old person, and young people get to be right on this stuff because they're the ones in control of what it is that gets popular. So even if they're wrong, they get to be right. But having ignorance rewarded again and again by dismissing people who have these lengthy resumes of credentials because you don't know who they are and you don't know that list of credentials, I feels to me like it's happening more and more across all of entertainment, where people who I see who are, that happened the other day with Stugotz here and Bob Costas, where you're just dismissing 40 years of career because you don't agree with something.
Kind of like I did to Jeff Pearlman today.
Kind of like you did to Jeff
Not
Pearlman
100%
today.
like the way, but kind of.
Well, I'm glad you brought that back up because we were talking earlier. Jeff Pearlman is an accomplished author. He writes very good sports books, well reported, exhaustively worked on, right? I don't think that he writes a book until he's talked to at least 100 sources on what it is that he's doing. So you see the reporting in what it is that he does. But Pearlman was lamenting something, and Stugotz said to me, he said, you hate what's become of sports coverage where the journalists are no longer objective. And I don't hate it. I'm just going to keep pointing it out to the audience because I don't want it done quietly. I want people to notice what it is that's happening to sports coverage so that you see the change and you see where it is that people are biased on things, because all of the gates have come crumbling down. And when you reward, as ESPN is doing, Shannon Sharp and McAfee and Stephen A. Smith for something other than journalism, you're in the entertainment business wholeheartedly. But ESPN has always been in that. The E stands for entertainment. It's the first word, and then they chose to be in journalism. They did not have to do that. They chose it because they wanted the credibility of newspapers with their sports coverage. But all of these televised products are partners with leagues. Like they're compromised from the start. That they choose to manage around the conflict of interest is something that I thought was laudable and noble while it lasted. I got used to it. I profited off of it, but I don't expect it to continue being the standard, especially when you get to young people who don't know who Dave Grohl is, not caring about what sports journalism was. They just don't care about it anymore, and they decide. I don't get to decide. I'm guy shouting at clouds, so I have to resign myself to it. And Stugotz thinks that I don't like it, but I like entertainment. I've sold myself for the entertainment dollar. I'm hugely grateful for what it is that ESPN decided to do for 20 years that the business didn't have to do, because, again, they're business partners with the league. Journalism doesn't work with that. The fact that they were able to do it for 20 years is amazing to me.
Journalism is struggling for several different reasons, including what you just mentioned there corporately. But is knowing the fandom of a journalist a problem, or is that maybe a good thing? Because I think for years before, we were, calling out journalists for having certain biases towards certain things. Now that's all laid bare. Now we know who people root for. We know their affiliations. We know the teams that they care about. We know that Adam Schefter loves Michigan. We know that Stephen A. loves the Knicks. We know these things, and I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. Like, we're all just human beings. Journalists, even throwing their biases aside, are humans influenced by the things that have brought them up.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily inherently wrong to know if a journalist likes a team, especially if it's not a team that they cover. Adam Schefter's not doing a ton of college football stuff, but I just think there's fewer jobs where journalists can just be journalists. Now you're incentivized to be part of this entertainment journalist industry, and if we were all just not fans of teams, what would we talk about? The part of this whole show's shtick is the Heat and the Panthers and all the local Miami teams and being homers for the Hurricanes and stuff like that. There's just fewer straight up journalism jobs now because of all the corporate reasons that have made it a really hard industry to work in.
Do you guys know that the Pope, before he was the Pope, was a bouncer at a bar?
That can't
With
be true.
one lung?
Yep.
A one-lunged bouncer.
I wouldn't
became
have
the
signed
Pope.
him if he was my bouncer. You're going to come in with one lung? Give me a break.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Did you know that the Pope was a bouncer once upon a time? And also, would you hire a bouncer that has only one lung?
Can you imagine Dalton walking into the bar and all of a sudden the Pope with one lung? It would have given him a whoosh.
It's a weakness.
Kick right in the other lung.
You're not doing a lot of chasing, though, as a bouncer.
And I don't think you walk up to him and you're like, that guy has one lung, right?
Probably
Dalton would know.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay, maybe.
Objectivity is an illusion. It's only something that can be aspired to. It is not in any way human. And here's what's funny about that. Joe Buck, when he's announcing the game, is objective, but nobody thinks he is because everybody watching is not objective. And so he ends up getting swallowed by what people think are his biases and his allegiances when he doesn't have any. And furthermore, is aspiring to the illusion of objectivity on top of that, even though he doesn't have a rooting interest in the game. I do like people's conflict of interests spoken and shown as opposed to hidden. But then what you get is when the Knicks make the playoffs, all of a sudden ESPN is cheerleading the New York Knicks, and every other fan base ends up getting upset by that. What Perlman is lamenting is absolutely a seismic shift in how ESPN does business, but it's been slow. It's a slow shift. It's been over many years, and now at the end of it, as these guys cash in, keep an eye on what's happening with Stephen A. Smith and the amount of money he wants, because all of the money ended up going to the white guys. He built that thing, and they're giving all the money to everybody else who's working a lot less. Everyone else there that's getting the money doesn't have to do what it is that he has to do, but it pays. Like, the ship has sailed. It's a luxury liner, man. Journalism drowned, and the entertainers are the ones who are going to get all the money, all of it.